My man don't love me, treats me oh so mean. My man, he don't love me, treats me awful mean.
Okay. I don't really know where to begin here. Um, but we're back. Unraveled is back, and I brought a guest, my one and only former roommate. I feel like there's a million other titles I could give you, but it's fine. So I mean, do you want to introduce yourself, Kendall, or do you want me to
I mean, I'm gonna throw up, but
yeah, like I feel like we're
this this feels like we're like in our college dorm room and like we're chatting like about our secrets, and I feel like we're gonna like everyone's listening in to like our deepest,
yeah.
darkest secrets. So this is a little like okay, a little fly on the wall, like, but I'm very excited to be here for your, you know, newest and greatest episode, the reboot.
Yeah. And for me, like I don't know why I had so much anxiety like coming up to this moment, and it's still kind of like pumping its way through my veins as we speak. But in a way, like I haven't done this in so long, and also it's taken on an entirely new form. So this is still, even though I recorded before and like the concept of this is not unfamiliar to me, this is still completely new in a lot of ways. So I feel very like I have stage fright because I'm putting myself on the spot again. And I do remember this feeling from before, but like people see me now and like I'm bringing other voices into, which is not something that I really did before. But yeah, we're back and I'm gonna try like super hard to not just use this space to like catch up with you, but um because like I do have a conversation that like I really want to jump into and I thought that you would be a really, really good person to have it with. Um just because like we've always both been really introspective people, and I've always said that even though our journeys have taken really different, like they look very different at the surface, um, in sharing them with each other and like communicating about them with each other, I think that they still somehow always end up like it might look different, but we're going through the same thing at the same time. And that's just like so wild to me, especially because we live on other like opposite sides of the country now. Um, which is what I want to talk about today. But yeah, so just for background, obviously, like some of us or some of the people that will tune into this will know us for like the dynamic duo that we are. But for those of y'all that don't, there I am with the y'alls. I knew it was going to happen.
Yeehaw,
Uh,
Calgary.
so yeah, for those of you that don't, just for some context, Kendall and I were college roommates. We literally transferred to the same school, the same semester. Neither of us knew anybody. We were both just kind of like lost at sea, no pun intended. And and we happened to meet each other at, wasn't it like a gay straight alliance meeting?
It sure was. You know, we were getting, we were
I
becoming
just
allies.
figured, yeah, like I just figured that, I knew nobody. I
That,
was going through a really rough
yeah.
time, and that was like a good way to meet some faces and potentially like form some community. And we ended up bumping into each other, and I just was like, do you want to like hang out with me?
I
Like I was
know.
going through it so hard, so
I
hard.
know. We like literally were like one of the only two queer people, and we're just like, hey, we're no matter what, we're just gonna have to be friends because this campus is too
Yeah.
small to not like know each other. But luckily, we just kind of hit it off, I guess
Yeah, and I
I'd
think
say.
that for like a hot second, our relationship, like our friendship was kind of surface level. Like I think it always
Yeah.
starts that way. But I distinctly remember being in a library quiet room doing homework together, and then the conversation, I don't know how or why, but it went from 0 to 100.
Yeah. No.
And we were just like,
I remember.
whoa. And so I think in that moment, maybe I didn't realize it right then, but like eventually I looked back on that moment and I was just like, we were definitely brought into each other's lives, like for more than just like being friends with somebody in college.
Oh, for sure.
So yeah, and I think that really has just evolved in ways that like I, for one, never could have foreseen as we've gotten older. And we've just gone on weird adventures in life.
We definitely.
So yeah, I mean, that's like really what I want to talk about today is that whole sense of moving from where your roots are and just kind of like finally having the courage to just take off and like fling yourself into something with not really much knowledge of like what's going to happen. And you know, in doing that, leaving behind like most of what you've ever known. Because like obviously like college was 2 hours away from home for me and 4 for you, right?
Yeah, it was 4.
So that's like at the time it was big, but now I look back at that and I'm like,
yeah, now I'm 2,000 plus miles away. And I'm
yeah,
like,
so like it's definitely puts a lot into perspective, and I think that even though that still was a growing and learning process, this has made it take on like a whole new meaning.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, what do you, when you think about those moments where you were like making the decision and you're like, this is what I'm going to do and this is where I might end up, or I don't know what the hell's going to happen, like what goes through your brain?
So I think for me, and like I listen to this podcaster, Mel Robbins, and she talks about there's certain people that sit in the stands of their life, or there's people that play on their court in their own life. And I feel like my early adolescence, I was like going with the flow, like doing the simple things, not really like, I like to chill. Like I like to like go into my routine and I like to know the outcome. But in order to make a big change in your life, you kind of have to have the confidence, because confidence is the ability to try something. It's like, you know, I exude like, it could be appearance and this and that, but truly confidence is like coming from this inner part of yourself, the willingness to fail. And I think finally I hit that point in my life that, you know, I graduated college and I thought like it would all just magically come together. And then I realized that that's not the case. Like you have to actually make things happen for yourself. And you know, college was super stable and, you know, you went to class and you didn't really have to like think too far ahead. And that like really, you know, formed me into this unhealthy habit or pattern of just being content instead of being like, well, why the F can't I just go do it, you know? And I think a lot of people in their young 20s are just like, well, I want to do this, but how do I get there? And for me, I was in the same boat. I was just like, well, I don't want to necessarily stay in Rochester. I don't want to move back home. How do I do this? And like, it's not like a how, it's just do. And you have to be, you have to be like, yeah, like you can't be super hesitant. And for a lot of my life, you know, you're hesitant. Like all you know, like I only knew New York and like all these, you know, small things that like make me me. And I loved every second of like being home in New York. And I loved my time at college. Like it was a good foundation. And then I moved across the country and I was like, man, and it's cliche to be like, oh, I wish I did this sooner. But like it all sort of started falling into place. Like, you know, you get out here and you just start making things happen. And I think you had the same feeling. Like once you left that little bubble that you thought like would have this grip on you for so long, and then you finally do it, you're just like, you know, I'm doing it. And like there was no turning back. Like there was like no turning back for me. Like, you know, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I definitely wanted to speak to the same sentiment, but I almost feel like you already did for me. Just because like when we graduated college, I mean, I graduated before, so it was like the middle of the
Mhm.
year, and December 2019, like before things got really fucking hairy, um, I moved home and I remember feeling like the biggest failure.
Yeah.
And I was
Yeah.
like, I'm going to get out of here as soon as possible. And my scope still was so small because it was like my plan then was to get my shit together and move back to Rochester as soon as possible. So still my scope of life in the world was still like it was just home and Rochester. Um, so really, I think that obviously COVID had a lot to do with it. But after a while, when things started like settling down with that, if you will, I got to a point where I felt super stagnant. And I felt myself getting super duper comfy with going through the motions, not really challenging myself. I worked at a job that was like, I was teaching, which I love absolutely till I die. But like, I felt very unfulfilled. Um, and I had that same exact feeling that you spoke about where I always said, I'll do it. I'll do it. I know, because I knew that I would never, ever, 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 ever be in my hometown forever. But it was like, I'll do it when I'm ready. And when
Mhm.
I was 21 when I graduated college, like that's fine. You're 21. Then I was 22. And then I was 23. And then I was 24. And I was like, holy fuck, I'm still here.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was just like this pipe dream that I had been smoking for so many years. And I was like, I just got, I had this realization like this past summer where I was like, I said that I was going to get out of here as soon as possible because I didn't want to even come back here in the first place. And I've been here for 3 years. And
Yeah.
I
It
felt
goes by fast.
disappointed in myself. I really did. And like, I also think that I needed to be home for some of that time because I went through a lot of shit that I think that I needed that stability in order to get through. Just like some super scary shit with my mental health and a lot of unnecessary heartache. But I did ultimately feel like I was growing stagnant. And it was always when I'm ready, when I'm ready, when I'm ready. Um, but there
You're
is
never
no when
ready.
you're ready. You're
You're
never
never
fucking
ready.
ready.
You're
You're never
never
ready.
ready. Like, let me tell
Um,
you, you're never ready.
yeah. And honestly, when I decided to move, it wasn't, it was something that was um, on my mind and feelings that I had for a really long time. But I wasn't actively planning or choosing anything. And there were a lot of people around me that started up, they were up and leaving too. So I was like, damn, like they did it.
Yeah.
So my interest was piqued. And then, of course, I met someone. And I very quickly realized that I was fond of that someone.
Yeah.
And upon meeting that someone, they were like, I'm moving. Um, you're
Doesn't
super
that always
cool and I
happen?
want to hang out with you, but I'm moving to North Carolina in 2 months. And I was like, that Alanis Morissette song, like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife. Like, what the fuck?
No.
So I just was like, of course I meet this person and
Timing.
like,
Timing's always
he's,
impeccable.
yeah, timing was great. And he's like
Timing's
super
always
awesome.
impeccable.
And, I really like him. And then, of course, he's leaving. And then I sat on it and I was like, you know what? Like, it's fine. this temporary window of my life with this temporary person, like I very much kind of set myself up for inevitable heartbreak again. And then I started thinking outside of the boxes, I guess, that I had been putting myself in, really, because I'm so overly concerned with what other people think of me. And I was like, what if I just left?
Yeah, it starts
Like, what
there.
if I just left?
It literally
And
starts there.
And then I really just kept that really close to myself. Like those cards were very, very, very close to my chest because I didn't want to bring that up and then have people would be like, you're going to follow a man to another state? Like you're fucking insane. And so one night him and I were sitting out at dinner and I had gotten a call because of course I'm snooping on Indeed and I'm like, show me jobs in Wilmington, North Carolina. So I had gotten a call from a school and their principal left me a voicemail and she was very intrigued and wanted to talk to me. And I didn't even want to tell him that I was having this thought process at first because I didn't want him to think like this bitch is crazy. Like
this
like,
bitch is on a ride or
right,
die.
Right, like what's she doing? And so
pack me in your suitcase.
We were sitting at dinner and I very hesitantly showed him this voicemail from this principal. She had her little twang and he was like, I'm sorry, what? And I was like, I applied to some teaching jobs in North Carolina. And he was like, he just lit up. Mm-hmm. And he was like, you really, you did? And I was like, yeah. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing yet. I have not made any choices here, but I'm just dipping my little toes in the water. And the water's warm. So I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
And so ultimately it came down to it and I flew down here to visit after he moved and I was like, you know what? And I had been down here a couple times before, just on trips to visit friends and family and whatever. And the day after Thanksgiving, I drove up to good old New York with a U-Haul attached to the back of my little Ford SUV. And a week later, I drove 12 hours back down here with what was left of my belongings and my 2 animals.
And you had that much.
Right. Well, it was just
I had 4 suitcases and I packed up and flew across the country and,
But I really did have especially because, the one big differing thing in our situations is that obviously this was a solo venture for you.
Yeah.
And for me, it did involve another person.
Mm-hmm.
And I really struggled. I really honestly, at one point was like, I'm not going to do this solely because I don't want people to think I'm doing it just because of another person.
Yeah.
I don't want people to think that I'm packing up my entire life and moving away for the sake of a man that I haven't even been with for that long, at the time especially. And then I thought about it and I was like, in my conversations with myself, I have wanted to be more and do more for so long. Mm-hmm. Whether I was in a relationship, in a situationship, by myself, whatever the situation might be in terms of that part of my life, I've always intrinsically felt pulled elsewhere.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I was like, you know what? Maybe this person coming into my life is literally just a message from wherever that I can. It's okay to go. It's okay to leave. I said to myself, I had to, I had to be real with myself and really say, okay, shit don't work out between you guys. Because I had that happen to me before. I literally moved to another city because I could not live without the partner that I was with. And it was really just young, stupid, codependent love. And
Mm-hmm.
it ended up going south, and I ended up being like, I don't want to be here anymore.
Yeah.
But
No,
this time it was
that's
like,
the hard part.
things go south, I will never once regret what I did. Of course, that's a hard thing for anybody to deal with, and nobody wants that to happen. But in the event that it did, this is a decision I made for myself. This is a decision that I would stick to regardless of the outcome of that relationship, which was, you know, kind of the segue for me being able to take off. I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, does that make
literally
any sense?
I mean, it does. I mean, you don't owe anyone that like dramatic, like,
that's the
hey,
thing too. But
like you don't owe it. And I think that's the thing about life is like actually like taking the driver's seat of your own life and being like, hey, I don't like give two F's like what this is going to end up like. And I think for me, once I finally like let go of like my own made boundaries about being like, this is what my life should look like, and just like started doing, I think every aspect of my life has like been so much better. Like I just went home recently and, you know, I was talking to my family and they're just like, we've never heard you like talk with such, you know, grace, poise, like about like what you're doing in your life and this and that. And that like really affirmed my decision, because it's just like, you know, when I was in school, like I was young, I didn't really like, I was unsure of myself to the point that I couldn't have anything super stable. Like, you know, we put on the mask, we're just like, oh, we got it together, like I'm 21 years old, like,
well, and your life is like in a
I'm good.
fishbowl.
Yeah, like you're just like, yeah, I'm
Like,
good, like I'm an adult. Like that was like, I was 4 hours from home, I was just like, you know, I'm free.
right,
And then
like I got it.
I'm just like, yeah. And I think, you know, we kind of grew up together and you kind of saw me like nervously like go through the motions of life, and like, you know, I would dip my toes in as well, but like I never fully jumped into something that was like, you know, for me with the confidence that I have now, that I exude now, which is so freeing. And it's like not even that you have to like move like, you know, 2,000 miles away or like move like a couple hundred miles away. It's the fact that you have the courage to try something that you don't know the outcome and doing it anyways. And for so long, I think we put ourselves in these boxes when really like nobody cares what you do. You just have to do it.
Yeah.
And it's like,
no, that's a thing I have to tell myself all the time.
Yeah, like you have to like, you know, for you to like find somebody that you want to experience life with, I think is like also a very important thing. And again, I was like reading something and I was just like, why don't we, you know, we put such love on such a pedestal where it has to be like romantic and this and that. And recently I've tried really hard to find things that I love, and like whether it's my friends, like if my friends are super down, I'm, you know, buying them, you know, food or coffee or something like that, where, you know, or your family, you're exuding love in other places, that it doesn't have to be like this romantic love that like fills you up type deal. So I think that's also a part of the journey. Once you love yourself, like this big move has shifted like way more than just like packing my bags and like hoping for the best. It's just like, okay, now I can like finally focus on developing a life that's just mine. And I'm finally having that peace of mind being like, okay, I did the big thing. What's the next big thing? But where can I fill these gaps? You know, that's sort of thing.
I literally actually wanted to start talking about that kind of thing. So thanks for living rent free in my brain.
Roll the question.
So there is that one, you do the damn thing, right? Like you pack your shit, you make the trek. For you, it was 2,000 miles. For me, it's like 800, which is still like, you know, and you get there and you unload your shit and like, okay, my apartment's unpacked. The adrenaline of the physical move is over. Or it's at least dissipating. And that's like exactly what you just said, where the next thing really for me especially was, now you got to sit with yourself. Because you're moving to a place where I know less than this many people. I'm still working in the school system, but I started a new line of work. I live in a city, but I work in the middle of nowhere. Like it is country. And it's definitely been an adjustment, and it's given me a lot of time to sit, like I said, with myself. Really like, because yes, I did this with someone else, but we each have our own lives. We each have had to go through those girls, I like to call them, on this journey in our own way. So some of it, like we have, talked about together, but also we are two different people, and we've really handled this transition in life very differently. So I have been able to go inward and ask myself questions that maybe I was putting off before, or sit with myself and be like, it's Friday night. It's the weekend. You don't have to work. You have no fucking friends, Natalie. What are you like? It puts you in an uncomfortable space. And that's kind of really what I wanted to talk about, was aside from the initial making the big move itself, was the discomfort that you have to sit in.
Oh, yeah.
You don't, like when I pictured moving away when I was younger, when I was little, and even I think some of those images stay with you as you get older. I imagined this like single 20-something-year-old female who gets out of a cab with a few of her bags, and she already has this well-decorated life put together for her, where she gets all cute and she goes to bars and she becomes best friends with strangers. And like sometimes those kinds of things do happen to us, but that's not real life. Yeah, and I guess for me, specifically, that was like a very rude awakening that I kind of like, it sat with me. I didn't think that, it was going to be rolled out in front of me per se, but I also was just like, not only do you not have friends, but you're not going to have any friends unless you fucking do something, unless you put yourself out there. It's a whole new type of vulnerability. As an adult, like it's one thing to be the new kid in school, right? But like I'm literally 12 hours away from everything I've ever known. I know, like I said, 2, 3 people. And one of them is my partner, whom I love dearly, but like I don't want that person to be my only friend. That's been very important to me from the jump, is that we establish our own senses of self and make our own friends and do our own things. So it's like, it's been really uncomfortable. Like I've been honestly, like, I don't regret for a minute, like I said, moving or taking on any sort of new venture, but it's been really fucking uncomfortable. And I think that that's not, it's just not talked about as much. Like I think that moving away is always framed as like this eat, pray, love. And like some of it is like that. There is a lot of romanticizing to be done. But at the same time, there are those moments where like I've cried a lot. I have cried a lot, and I've been very uncomfortable and very just out of my element. And like I said, not feelings of regret, but just necessary growing pains that I know that I have to sit through, that are the less pretty, less decorated, less coming of age indie film types of things that you have to deal with when you take the fucking plunge and you throw away everything you've ever known to like fuck around and find out.
Yeah, no, and it's so funny that you bring up that side of it, because I was literally in this conversation, like my friends are pretty scattered at this point. And, I think a lot of people, like when they check into my life, it seems like very exciting, very fun. And like, I'm like, like I live in sunny San Diego, and I say that all the time. And like, I'm so grateful and happy to like be in a place like San Diego. But remind them, I'm just like, just because it's sunny in San Diego doesn't mean I still don't feel those inadequate feelings
Yeah.
of, oh, like this is so new, like I wonder what this person's doing, that person's doing. And just because like I can go out on Fridays and meet these new people and, you know, form these friendships and like do the thing that I wanted to do, doesn't mean that some days like I sit in bed and I'm just like, man, like what's next? Or like feeling, you know, no direction in that sort of grand scheme of life. And then I explain that to people that like we all struggle no matter where you go in your like life journey. You know, just because you pack the bags and you get here doesn't mean it checks all the boxes. Just like if me and you moved and we were both in San Diego doesn't mean we're both going to be like happy go lucky all the time. And I think that's like a humbling moment to be like, you know, it's great when you're comfortable in a place and you have like all these familiar, but like it doesn't take away the struggle that you're going to always, you know, face. There's going to be those obstacles. It's going to be that bad day or like that bad month. And for me, like that's living and growing. You know, I came out to like San Diego and again, I didn't know anyone. I did it alone. All I had was, you know, work and, you know, I pretty much had to make do with that. And since then have allowed myself to have the patience to immerse myself at my pace. You know, when I go
Patience
out,
is huge.
No, it really is. It's just like, okay, like
I've really been struggling with. I struggle with
like,
patience just in general, but like
no,
especially this has put my patience to the test.
Yeah, and like I think for me it's like giving myself, and like this is my new big thing, is giving myself that grace to like be human. So listen, I'm not a psychologist. I didn't go for it, but like the only thing that I can test to is the human experience and being like I'm just as human as anyone else just because I live in this amazing place with a great apartment. Like I have the friends, like, you know, I don't downplay that like right now, like, you know, life has worked out thus far, but the in-betweens, you know, of just being human and like waking up and feeling inadequate or like what's the next jump, or is like this going to be my forever place, which I hope it is because I do enjoy San Diego and like all that it has to offer. But with coming with a big move, you leave behind like, you know, I miss my like miss out on family things, you miss out on friends' lives. You know, we used to like be, you know, roommates to like living a couple hours from each other to like literally halfway across the country. And, you know, we make good about connecting to people, but, you know, we all talk about FOMO and it's just like, oh, like I wonder what they're doing. And like, you know, you want to pack everyone that you can in your bags and be like, well, follow this journey with me. And when you grow up, that's the lonely part, is that like these connections, yeah, they like, you know, like they ebb and they flow, they, you know, that sort of thing. And it's just now I have to make it work somewhere else. And like that's a pretty intense thing. You know, you lay down roots in your hometown for, you know, 18 years. And then we went off to college and I thought Rochester was, you know, this beautiful experience that like, you know, I am grateful that like everything that happened in Rochester has led me to this point. And now I'm just like, okay, like now I'm here. But there's still those feelings of like, you know, that what's next, you know? And I think that is the humanness of it. No matter where you end up, or, you know, you have to learn to be with yourself. And I think for a while I was scared to get to know that version of myself, to like sit and be like, okay, like what does Kendall want to do?
What if you see something you don't like when you're not distracted?
No. And I think, you know, a lot of my young years, like I was distracted. I was like, okay, like where do I put these feelings, or how do I talk about these feelings? And now I'm just like word vomiting like out these feelings, but like that's like a cool thing. That's like a cool thing to like experience, that like now I'm super open to talking about things. And like, you know, I think as you get more confident in yourself, that's where it like starts to come. Like I can sit with myself, you know, I like my alone time. I don't need to like be busy. I don't need to like have fun and mask, you know, what's actually what I'm feeling. And I think that's the whole part of it, that it's not just necessarily moving, it's all the other feelings that like come with that move that are like even bigger than just being at the beach. You know,
and right. And I literally have so many things to say, but Number one, I definitely can resonate to that feeling of, talking to people who are home, especially in my situation, talking to people who have only ever lived in one place and known one reality, which is not to knock that experience at all, because for some people that is good and that is okay. But the conversation is always framed with a lot of like positivity and, like, you must be doing so great. And, there's no snow. That's a big one right now because it's like atrocious in New York.
Yeah.
But, there's no
beautiful in San
snow and it's
Diego.
sunny out all the time. And you live 10 minutes from the ocean and all these things that almost kind of made me feel like at first guilty that I was still having this transitional kind of discomfort. And I had to really tell myself that like I'm still allowed to be a person. And it made me think of, I had this therapist when we were in college. I started seeing her the semester that we transferred, because like I said, I just really was not having a good time personally. And I also was doing that 2 hours away from home, which was the farthest I had ever been from home for like a length of time in my life. So I started seeing this therapist on campus, and I can't remember what exactly I was talking about the day that she said this to me, but she was like, "Oh, yeah, the geographical cure." And I just looked at her and was like, "What is that?" Because it sounded intriguing. I'm like, okay, new vocab. And she's like, a geographical cure. Like a lot of people think, oh, I'm struggling. I'm just going to pick up my life and I'm going to move it somewhere else. And when I get there, everything that I am having a hard time with now is going to go away.
Yeah.
And of course, when you explain it out like that, it sounds fucking ridiculous. But like, I do think that sometimes, even subconsciously, we do think this is a fresh start, new place to live, new me, and I'm not really going to have the issues that I'm having here because the problem is where I live. The problem is this, the problem is that. And I did get rid of so many of my things, and I did leave with, next to nothing compared to what I had before. And I did leave a very different person than I may have been in the years prior, but you do still carry some of that shit with you. Mm-hmm. And I think that being in a new place is what exposes itself to you, and it forces you to see it. It forces you to feel it, which I think I needed. I always hit these bumps in like my journey of life where I'm like, I know at the end of the day, I haven't done all the growing that I can do, but I also don't know what else there is for me to do. Like, I know there's more, but where is it? And this move really like put it in front of my face and said, here, bitch, you have a lot of things to learn. You have a lot of things to grow for. Yeah, you're going to sit here on a Friday night with your Chinese takeout and you're going to think about it. And I already really loved being by myself. I did. But I also know and had to accept the fact that I had spent the greater part of my late teens and early 20s, because I guess we're still in our early 20s, my earliest 20s, drinking and smoking my pain away and constantly surrounding myself with other people. Like, I am a social butterfly, and I thrive off of human connection. So I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. But to really, truly be comfortable with being by myself, which I already kind of hurdled, but being by myself, and being by myself completely like in my natural state is like, whoa. And it's forced me to, hello. Hey,
how are you?
I really have like myself over again in a way, and have allowed, given myself permission to like, let me reintroduce myself. I think I'm kind of cooler now, but that's just my opinion. And not only that, it's forced me to ask myself questions that like might seem kind of dumb at surface level, but like I sit there and I'm like, Natalie, what do you like to do?
Yeah.
Like I never like what do you like to do? That's not doing something for someone else. That's got nothing to do with your job. That does not involve any sort of substance consumption. What do you like to do? Because I've been using the
Yeah.
same fucking answers for the last 10 years and I don't even do those things anymore. I like reading and I love listening to music. Okay, most sane human beings like listening to music, Natalie. What do you like to do? When you're sitting by yourself and you say, I'm bored, what do you want to do? Like, I really have had to become a person again because I made so many generic things like my whole existence. And I kind of made hanging out with other people as a distraction my whole existence. Like, and my partner and I work opposite schedules. So, like, I come home every night and it's like, I used to dread it and now I get excited. Like, I get to put on my jammies and snuggle with my fur babies and play Sims. And I am so lame and I have never been happier. I love Sims. I don't care.
No, I totally understand like how you mean, like actually getting to know a version of yourself that isn't, 18, 20 years of pent up like pattern after pattern after pattern. I love hanging out with my friends. I love being the social butterfly. And people say that all the time. It's just like, I love the excitement of that. And then recently I've really taken that step back, be like, okay, Ken, like, what's going on? Like, let me do the inner work that like actually is going to fill me up. And I think, I traveled a lot overseas last year. I wasn't really connected and it physically made me sit. And I think that's, one of those things that every person has to be willing to do that. And,
because I'm obviously not lost at sea, but like, you got to be able to, like you said before, like I'll say it again because I think it's fucking gold. You have to be willing to do something without knowing what the outcome is. And I think that we are both, like you already mentioned it, but we are both two people who like to know when I do A, B is going to happen. Yeah. And then if you put them together, like, we're going to get C. And that's that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I've been a results like oriented person like my whole life. I was just like, if I go to school, I'm gonna get a job and that's gonna be like it. And then I graduated school and I was like, I don't want that job. I don't actually know what I want to do. And it's like, okay, well, I have to do something that like is for me. And you have to kind of let go of this negative outcome. Like I think a lot of us get into this negative mindset, like predetermined failure. And I think that's like a huge thing that you're just like, well, if I don't make it, like, then I'm done. Like I would have to go back to my parents or back to like my hometown. And it's like not even that you have to leave your hometown. It's like letting go. And like you said, like you don't have to leave, but it's also, are you in control? Are you fully like in the game? Are you sitting courtside of your life? Are you letting the days pass by? I mean, we met when we were 18.
Those are what I like to call NPCs, non-playable characters. Like, are you being a non-playable character?
Yeah, exactly. No, like that's like, it's just like, hey, like you can be on the Jumbotron of your life as it's passing you by. Here I am 25 years old. And I'm just like, I couldn't imagine like watching myself on the Jumbotron, like not making it happen for myself when I knew I was full of potential. And like that's the thing, it's only potential until you take action on it, like you can be the best in the game and like I could have been the best at the job, or you could like have the perfect scenario, you're going to move with your best friend, you're going to move with your partner, you're going to do this. It's all potential. These things don't take action until you take action. So it's just like until I was on the plane, no turning back, one-way ticket, I wasn't taking action. I was just falling in love with that potential. And I think in life we have the habit of daydreaming. I'm a daydreamer. I'm just like, oh my God, this would be this would be perfect if
reading me to filth here.
This thing. And so it's just like, okay. And like you get caught up in it. And that's where you become that stagnant. You're just like, okay, it's gonna happen. Don't you worry. And I don't like to be a talker. And I think for a while in my younger 20s, I was a talker. I was just like, no, I'm gonna
Same.
make it happen. Like, you know, like
Yeah.
XYZ, I got this shit in the bag. Like, I,
Mhm.
you know, fake it till you make it type, you know, BS. And like, I mean, it's not all BS, but hey, now I'm taking action. Now I'm just like, wow, like I'm not all talk. Like I packed the bags, I did it, and I was, you know, and I, you know, hesitant to say it. I was scared to do it. You
Yeah.
know, like
Oh, please.
fully,
You can be as hesitant
yeah,
as you want, because I will admit
yeah.
for the
It's
both of
just,
us that I was
it's,
fucking terrified.
yeah. I was just like, you got to be kidding.
I
Like,
went
Kendall,
into
you're
like
literally,
autopilot,
yeah. No, it's just
and I
like
was
I had no choice.
yeah, I really did. I kind of blacked out a little, like in life a little
No,
bit. Not in a bad way, but just because like I knew that if I sat around and fucking pondered it for too long, that I would end up not doing it. And I was
yeah.
talking to a friend who actually moved down to Raleigh from New York, like 2 or 3 years ago now, in like the heat of COVID. And I was talking to him when I first started like thinking about this, and I was like, dude, am I fucking like batshit crazy or what?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, like you really just gotta fucking send it. Like it sounds so generic
Yeah.
and so like
Just
Nike
go
t-shirt,
send
but like
it.
you just have to go.
Yeah.
And he's like, have you ever read The Alchemist? And I'm like, of course I
Great
read The
book.
Alchemist. Yeah. He's like, I
Great
read The
book.
Alchemist, and he's like, you should just reread it. Like you should just give it a little gander, because that was something that I read when I was really like sitting with my thoughts and making the choice to move. Um, and he said, but I will tell you right now that there was a U-Haul in my driveway. Him and his brother moved together. And he was like, there was a U-Haul in the driveway with all of our shit in it. And we were ready to make this. I think Raleigh's only like 10 hours from New York. They're a little bit north of me. But he's like, and it still didn't feel real. And I didn't quite get what he was saying until I was hauling it down I-40, doing
Literally.
75 with a screaming cat, a passed
Literally.
out co-pilot, a 5-pound chihuahua, and half my shit in a 5x7 trailer. And I was like, I'm not like, I'll be home in no time.
Trust me.
And then it was just like, then you get up for your first day of work, right? You put your shit in an apartment. And it really didn't feel real. It still doesn't most of the time, but it was
I wake
so
up
funny.
and I'm like, what?
Right. Like this
I'm
is my
like,
life.
just yeah, no,
I can get up
crazy.
and go wherever I want. Like an insomnia cookies is literally around.
That's all you need.
Right. And so it's funny because it really didn't feel real, and it hasn't felt real. Besides when I'm in my little bubble that I've created for myself until today. Like, and it really has nothing to do with the fact that we were recording today. It's just, I was at work, and when you start a job, especially because of course, like the whole rabbit hole of moving also opened other doors for me. Like, why don't we leave teaching while we're at it? So I'm at work, and like the first, month or so of my job was kind of like learning the ropes, and it was slow. And I don't like that. I don't like being idle. I like to be busy. I like to be on my feet. And I like to feel like I am doing something really. And I haven't, and it's been really discouraging on top of everything else. And it was nobody's fault or anything. It was just again, gotta be patient. And so today, like, I had my first situation where I got a kid to come to school who like had not been to school in weeks. And the kid had nothing. So I got them, all these school supplies together and sent them on their way to class. And I saw them walking down the hallway with the social worker. And I just was like, it felt like the first time I had done my job.
Yeah.
And like I was leaving a classroom today after school program to go home, and I was all anxious about like, I'm recording the reboot episode. Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to say? Like, I'm doing it on camera and I'm doing it with another person and like rehearsing all this shit when I don't want it to be rehearsed at all. And I was like, okay, like, I'm going to leave, guys. Like, have a good night. And this girl goes, bye, Miss H. I love you.
Oh, that's so adorable.
And I was like, you know, I've had those moments with students before as a teacher and like in the couple of years that I taught in New York, but in this new venture, that had never happened before. And I walked back to my classroom and I was like, you know what? One day you just wake up and, you know, X amount of time has gone by and, you know, either you just wake up or something happens and it just makes sense.
Yeah, I feel like today you finally stopped running. Like, I feel like a lot of this is like, we're running.
I lived a day. I lived a whole day in the life.
Yeah. Like, you literally, like, and I felt the same way. Like, some of these moments I like, you know, for so long thought, oh, maybe I'm just running, like constantly just running, going. And then you wake up and you're like grounded. You're like, this is today. I'm here. I
really did feel a shift. Like, I don't know how to explain it really because it's internal, but like I really did feel a shift and like a calm that I have not quite felt before. There's always like been this underlying anxiety of like waiting for something to go wrong because I feel like when you try something new and you take that leap, there is just, and for me personally, because I'm like anxious as all get out, there is that impending, like, I need to be on guard because I'm waiting for something to come in and ruin this for me.
And then you do the opposite and be like, but actually, why doesn't something go right? You know, you flip it. You'd be like, you can't have that impending doom because, you know, it might not, like, you know, like you can't live the life of possibilities. Because look at it, it's going right. It's not going wrong. It's going right.
So
and like I think
weird.
that's that series of possibilities, and all they are just possibilities. Like, there's no end game. There's no direct outcome. Like, there's only a series of possibilities that you know shift and reshift. And I think when you grow and like you're finally confident in yourself, you're like, you're good. The boundaries are there. Like, you know what you want. You're not going to accept the, you know, the dirt anymore. You're going to be like, I'm going to take that ownership. I'm going to rock this shit out, whatever that looks like. And there is no definitive answer, even for me. Like,
there can't be. Like, literally try to come up with one because it's probably not going to be the one.
And it's just like, it's like, again, Mel Robbins, like this podcaster, I listen to her every morning on like my little run. And she's just like, dreams are sometimes the unachievable thing because it keeps you going day after day after day. It's like the dreams
you gotta have something
like,
to chase.
To chase. So like, you know, goals are achievable. Those are like the achievable things. Like, your goal is to do this or that. And like, I think when you look big picture, you know, we talk about, you know, being not content or stir crazy or things like that. And then you sit and you reevaluate your goals and just know that your dreams are always going to be there to just drive you to just, you know, think outside the box. And, you know, it's not always that attainable thing. And I think, you know, when we packed up our stuff, we didn't really need the stuff either. We could have just got on the plane or you got it in the car. And I think that was the most, like, I still have stuff like back in my house in New York. And I'm just like, man, I don't, you know, it wasn't the stuff, it was me like getting on the plane and being like stepping out for the first time and being like, holy shit, Kendall, like, what are we actually doing here?
I've had those moments too. And I think that like it's fair to say that I have had moments where I'm like, you always, once you do it, right, you teeter this line of like, when things are hard and you're uncomfortable, you teeter this line of like, I can push through this and trust in something bigger than myself, or I can go back to everything I've ever known because it's comfortable and it's safe. And every time that I've had that feeling, and I've had that feeling quite a few times in the last 3 months, that's never an option for me. And that's how I know that deep down I really just need to be patient.
Yeah,
Um,
no,
but
absolutely. I think patience is a virtue.
yeah, like I literally need to
100%.
get that tattooed somewhere on my body because it's never been
Patience
truer.
tattoo across my forehead. No, and I think
Hmm.
everything is naturally just working out. Like, and like there's a fine line between like make it happen and like letting it work out. Like I get that because like sometimes you
Yeah.
have to like take the, but
Well,
then
and this journey is a little bit of both. You have to
yeah,
let it
no,
happen and you have to also make it happen.
yeah, no, I think that's the hard part about it is like, if you don't teeter that fine line and go right down the middle with it and you're just too hesitant, then it's never going to happen. But if you're just like, hey, I'm going to make it happen, like I'm going to make it happen the first step, but like what
Yeah.
happens after that is kind of like, that teetering edge, which is a really odd, uncomfortable, but be comfortable being uncomfy. And I think
Hmm.
I love to be comfortable in all aspects of
Who
life. Don't we
doesn't?
all? Don't we
Yeah.
all? But when you're scared, you kind of like have this little
It's
adrenaline, this
fucking
fearlessness.
exhilarating. I'm getting
No, it
adrenaline.
is.
I used to seek thrills from like very A, harmful, B, toxic, and C,
Yeah,
temporary things. And I think that this is a more enriching type of thrill because like
yeah,
I'm not
it's totally
fucking
yours.
destroying myself in the process. And it's mine. Absolutely. It's
Yeah,
mine.
like this
Um,
is yours.
yeah. And in it
Yeah.
being yours, I do have one more question for you before we like
Ooh,
sign off.
okay.
Um, so obviously we talked a little bit about like making friends and you know, kind of having to put ourselves out there.
Yeah.
So this has just been like a recent venture, like mini venture within the venture for me. So I was just like curious about your take on it. But how's like the queer community scene? Like how
It's
has that been
it's
for you?
it's actually been insane.
Yeah.
I mean, San Diego is so queer. It's actually like I'm just like,
Yeah.
how is this even possible? I'm meeting, there's queer, totally queer girl oriented bars. I'm just like, oh hey, and like I've met so many people, like constantly meeting new people, like, you
Hmm.
know, you meet friends, you go on coffee dates, you're dating, like, like adult dating so weird and like,
Yeah.
you kind of,
I'm kind of out
I
of
mean,
like I'm benched for
yeah,
that,
yeah, but
but
like, and I'm not like, like it's just like one of those things that like it's very new for me too because I've never, had so many people in the queer community and like so many outlets. And it's like
yeah.
not even just the drinking scene, like there's just like, safe spaces that like are just going to be queer friendly.
Hmm.
And I think that's super empowering and it's like super crazy to experience. I had Connor out here and he
I
was like,
know. Calm
he was,
down.
yeah, he was just like, shout out Kanjan. But I
Yeah, for
brought him,
real. We love you.
I brought him out here because obviously I left the hometown that he still resides in. And I was just like, you need to see what I see like all the time.
Yeah.
And
Oh my
he
God,
was
I'm
just
trying to
like,
recruit my sister. Like,
yeah,
look at us go.
yeah. And he's just like, wow, this is like so amazing. He's like, I didn't even know this was like even possible. And like to feel
Yeah.
possible in this big world is super cool.
Especially
It
when you
is,
walk a life that's like, you walk a path that people don't want. Like, a lot of people still don't want to be possible.
yeah, no, like exactly. And San Diego has really, obviously we have like those not so great things happen, but
Hmm.
as a whole, I feel welcome. Like there's a community here. Like I
Yeah.
said, like there's so many possibilities for just friendship, relationships, and we never had that. Like me and you were like riding in college
It was
together
it.
type
Like,
deal.
and I
Like that was
literally had
it.
made my way
Yeah,
through every queer person on
yeah,
campus and was like,
yeah.
bro, is this a me
Oh,
thing or is this like a
yeah, no,
population thing?
no. It's like, it's been definitely overwhelming, but in a good way to like meet
Hmm.
so many people and like you just like, how did I like end up here and stumble upon like so many great people?
Yeah.
And I think it's super important for me in like this stage of just like figuring me out like individually. It's been nice to like be around new types of people and like really, you know immerse myself in adult friendship, dating culture, which is,
Yeah, being an adult is literally just being a child, but bigger, and you have to pay bills, as far as I'm concerned.
yeah,
And
no,
I don't
it
know.
really is.
As far as the queer community here, I've honestly been very pleasantly surprised because when you think about venturing south, like we're from New York, and upstate
Yeah.
had its little pockets of like
Yeah.
yikes.
Yeah.
But overall, we are very fortunate that we don't have to worry about a lot of things. And so one of my biggest um, concerns, I guess, or apprehensions was what's the social climate going to be? And in the city that I live in, like I can't speak for all parts of the state, but I've been very pleasantly surprised at the open-mindedness and the visibility that marginalized people do have here. And even in the school that I work in, which is very rural compared to where I live, the kids are just so cool. And they don't even realize it. Like teenagers can be a different breed sometimes, but like at the end of the day, they are just very candid. And they're just cool. So that's honestly been a lot of, testing the waters there and like being the new staff member that's not only the new staff member, but also the new staff member that puts a pride flag in her room.
Hell yeah.
And not having, like, feeling safe in doing that was like, okay. And knowing that even if there were to be pushback because you're not ever 100% safe, sadly, that people would have my back. And the organization that I work for a non-for-profit that pushes into the schools, so I'm not an employee of the school. The organization that I work for is just incredible. So
Yeah.
I think little by little, like, it's literally just, it's writing itself,
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, you want to see at the table, you gotta be at the
clean
table.
off the
You gotta use
motherfucking
voice.
table and sit down.
Yeah. And you gotta do that in your own life too. Like you want to see at the table in your own life, you gotta do it, and I think that's the biggest takeaway is that in all of this, moving, relationships, whatever, you have to have that willingness to, have the confidence to fail and try and fail and try and fail and try. And, we're just gonna keep getting after it.
I'm so happy to chat with you.
I know. I feel like
I'm so happy to be back. Like that's one of the things that this whole big move has like pushed me to do is to just get back in this space. Like I don't care if I become a worldwide sensation or if 7 people listen to this. Like I just really wanted to be back in this space. So yeah, thanks for doing the damn thing with me.
I'll always do the damn thing. Bonnie and Clyde.
And mark my words, we are going to be Beverly Hills Chihuahuas this summer.
Woo! Everyone come to San Diego.
For real. Pay us a visit. Please, but yeah, please. I mean, I think that's all I got, unless you want to add some more really lovely avocado toast wisdom.
I mean, obviously, I thank you for having me on the reboot episode. This is exciting. I've been geeking about it all week. Like, guys, I'm going to be on a podcast. But yeah, no, it's cool that even on opposite sides of the world, we can,
we're still doing that.
We can still share that humanness of change and embracing change. And, whether or not we express it all the time, we always have each other's backs, which is like a super cool thing. Like, you always got somebody in your corner type deal. So take the leap.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll be sending each other snail mail or something soon, but I love you forever.
Love you.
And as for the rest of you, I'll see you next Tuesday.
Woo-hoo.